We are back. It's been too long. I feel like it's been weeks. And season 1, we wanted to say first, thank you guys so much for supporting us. Mm-hmm. And now coming back to listen to season 2, we have a lot to talk about. We actually, I think we really worked hard to figure out this season and make sure like it was applicable not only to us, but like just understanding where so many people like us, some topics I think that they would understand and they would like.
Be relevant.
Some relevant, yeah. You know, we're gonna get into it, and it's gonna be interesting season.
I don't think they see this coming.
Shots will be fired, and I am ready. So, let's just get into it. We know we want to talk about a little bit about what this season's gonna be about, and I'm excited. I'm excited to uncap a lot of stuff.
Yes. So in this season, we want to talk and have some conversation surrounding dismantling expectations. And so we are going to cover that under the umbrella, or under some examples of that would be a conversation surrounding race, culture, womanhood, education, church, adulting, all the things, because we recognize that there are a lot of expectations that seem to define how we should operate, how we should experience these different parts of our lives, and dismantling them is such a beautiful opportunity of gaining back power and gaining back understanding and creating awareness for us of how we can maneuver through life in a powerful way, in an efficient way, and that feels authentic to us. So we are all about empowering individual voices and helping to define what is important to us, and we're just going to have some conversations surrounding these topics, and I hope that y'all enjoy what we have to share.
It's going to be honest conversation.
It's going to be honest, open, and transparent.
On this season, y'all gonna listen to us on a weekly basis and be like, they woke up this morning and chose violence. They really did.
Yes.
But these are important things to talk about. So as usual, we often start with a quote that like stood out to us. Gailisa and I are in a PhD program, and one of our classmates, Beth Hool, we were in a meeting recently, and she said, there's often a level of I don't know, and maybe it's healthy to always feel a bit of that. So let me give some context. We're talking about our experiences as therapists, and just the fact that there's some things that we navigate that we are often unsure about. And so she was saying that basically, like to some degree, she was suggesting, I guess, like it's healthy and helpful to have some level of I don't know within our context, our way of thinking, and all of that. And I think that's one of the places where we often feel uncomfortable because it doesn't necessarily fit the expectation. And that's in all things. We often feel this pressure to be at a certain place of progression or to be there by a certain time. There's often so many, like we're talking about, expectations around like how we approach life, how we approach work, how we approach school, and whether there be expectations externally or internally, they are definitely felt. And so one of these main ways that we feel it in general, that we think everyone can relate to, is adulting. Adulting has become a term that, when did this start? Like the last 5 years, I feel like this word came on the scene of adulting. I
feel like for me, I've heard it only within like the last 3-4 years. Like,
you have definitely been at college.
You have to start adulting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think the weird thing is nobody ever defined the word for me, but every adult knows what adulting is.
Yeah.
And they always say it's ghetto.
Yeah.
It is. It's ghetto. It's ghetto. It really is. For those who are not maybe most excited by the term ghetto, it's just not what we prefer to do. Adulting highlights a lot of the responsibilities and the weight of this stage of life. Highly, though, what we've been thinking about and talking about is that a lot of this involves the way somehow that we are socialized to be. Like, even like we just said, right? There's no specific definition of adulting. So how did we figure out what adulting is?
That's true.
How did we figure out what falls under this category? And I think part of that is like by definition, right? Like within the definition, it is doing what it does. Within the definition of trying to figure out what adulting is, we have expectations that are set of what adulting is, right? So yeah, I think it even ties into a lot of what we've been talking about in the last season concerning even parts of imposter syndrome and really trying to figure out like, where do I stand in all of this?
It's what's interesting for me too with adulting is how much it's such an evolving experience, in that, at least for me, when I think about adulting and how I might set expectations or feel expectations of me when it comes to adulting, it feels different with different milestones that I'm making. So adulting after graduating, adulting after leaving home, adulting when I need to now make purchases or I need to like manage my health. It's just so many different milestones I think are a huge part of what the adulting experience looks like. And they all begin to inform who we are in some aspects, but at the same time also add unnecessary pressures. Yes. And so I think that's what we want to get into a little bit of a more conversation about, is talking about the expectations that are attached to adulting, as Danielle's making reference to. And so, to the question, how have y'all kind of defined for yourselves maybe what adulting is? Is it something that feels intimidating? Is it something that you've kind of taken it by its horns and you're like, I'm here? How have you engaged with the whole concept of adulting?
Well, I thought I was taking it by the horns, but every time I think that, it just slapping me.
Okay.
So, I guess I'll answer your question with a question, because I'm like, I ask myself, who said, or who's putting this pressure on me to think that I have to reach these certain levels by this time? Because I think that's what adulting has been for me. It's been putting these expectations that I have to have this done, I should be at this point, and I'm like, who put that on me? And I think most of the times it's been me and society, societal expectations. I think has been putting that pressure on me to be like, I need to finish this, or I need to have this done, or I need to have these things accomplished by this time. Yeah. That
though sometimes feels like a catch-22, right? Because there are things in life that we should have done by a certain time.
Oh, yes.
So I like, I'm making it clear that like, it's not like, oh, I have the rest of my life to figure out where I'm going to live. Like, this needs to be figured out at a certain time. But at the same time, yes, there is that place of like, this timing. I remember it was like 3 years ago. I went to one of my mentors in the area, Dawn, and I was like, I have a question. You're an adult, right? Like, how do I know that I have hit adulthood? Like, and obviously I'm grown. I was like, how do I know that I'm adult? Like, when do you know? When do you cross the threshold of like, okay, I am now like full on adult, not just young adult, but like not just emerging adult where I'm trying to figure out and, making mistakes, but how do I know that I've hit the thing? She turned it into a joke and talked about basically when there's no one to like do the things that you won't do, when there's no one. She made a joke about like something about being at home and when her son dropped something and she had to pick it up, and she's like, oh, there's no one else to pick it up if I don't do it. But I think to some extent that is what adulting is in the real world, is like when I hit the place where I have nobody to call on to do the thing. There's no one who's going to go shopping for me or make the appointment for me or pay my bills for me or whatever. Like, when I am responsible for doing the things, all of the things.
Yeah, I think for me, as I think about what the experience of adulting looks like and how I've kind of defined it for myself, I just think about increased responsibility. That is, and the increase is like me taking on more of the responsibility instead of somebody else making the decisions for me. So where I felt more comfortable, and every time I was and I mean I still do this from time to time, but it's okay. I would feel some type of way, I would like question myself sometimes when I go in the store, right? I'm getting medication, and I call my parents and I'm like, so mommy, you think this could work? So I don't know, I'm in a whole different country. She don't know what my symptoms really looking like. She ain't know. She's not a doctor. But I have like this trust of my parents, and sometimes I feel like there's this expectation that you have to do adulting alone.
Oh.
And you have to do it without the covering of your
Wow.
Wait. We don't do adulting
no.
alone.
We don't. I don't think so.
You just really caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly really caught me off guard.
Yeah, I don't think we have to do adulting alone.
Wow.
That changed.
I don't want to cut your point, but I think
Yeah.
I think that changes the game.
It does. Because every time I think about adulting, it's solely me doing all the things. It's never me with help. Because I'm like, I should be independent, which I'm saying all the shoulds, but I should be independent. I should be able to do this. I should be able to buy that. I should be able, I never go into it with like, oh, I could also get help. That changed the game.
I think for me though, within myself, like I've told myself that I am adulting when I do it alone. Like when I do it with people, I'm no longer adulting. I am being childlike, so to speak. But like when I am able to handle the things on my own, then like you've reached it. Like goal met. This is changing the game. You can continue your point. But this is just.
Yeah, you know, because I was like, that actually, that my wheels are turning.
And I think, honestly, I think that's something that's kind of given me some liberation thinking that way. And I'm still walking in it. You know, we're working through it. But I'm recognizing that that's an expectation that I have of myself, that I have to figure this season of my life as an adult alone. I feel like I would get, what I think the expectation I had of myself is that I would reach to like a full place of competency and a full place of like maturity once I could say to myself, I did it on my own. Look, world, I did it.
Not world.
You know what I'm saying? And I realized though that high key was a place of pride for me. That is high key really kind of toxic.
You're kindly kicking me in my stomach over and over again. Thank you so much.
I don't even want to talk about pride on now.
Yeah. So I think, I'll just kind of use that as an introduction point. Y'all can continue to share your thoughts. But I really realized, and it isn't even just about our parents. It's about including those trusted people, those mentors, those people within our lives to help us to be able to engage life in a more meaningful way. So for me, the way how I define adulting or adulthood is learning how to better use my resources rather than feeling like I have to do things alone and independently from other people. When I can use my system better, because you can't, and I just saw this quote somewhere today, like it's better to move in numbers, it's better to move together than trying to do these things independently. So
Journey, I don't know what else we got to say.
No, I'm like,
I don't know.
Y'all, the Lord been working on me on this. I'm not gonna lie.
Let me tell y'all. Let me be open. So the last 2 months of life has been lifing, right? And it has demanded that I adult on a new level, right? Let's just put it that way. One of the things involving being in a car accident and having to find a new car and all of the things that go with that. And in the process, like it's obviously been a process of dealing with the aftermath of an accident, but it's also been a process that has been challenging me in this area. And I had a very open conversation with my mom in the middle of the process. We were working out all of the logistics of the things. And I basically had a conversation with her where I acknowledged that in a way that I had responded to her previously. I was like, this is me desiring to be an adult fully and handle this on my own, right? And she was extending help to me, and I was like, I'm appreciative of the help, but this is something that I really want to be able to manage as an adult. And to me, to handle it as an adult means I'm handling it on my own. Like I will figure it out. Not that I'm ungrateful, but I didn't want to continue relying on other people to help me navigate through these things. So I was like, I will handle it. And after sitting with myself and finding the ability to communicate these things to my mother, you're telling me that I don't have to adult alone. Where now does that leave me? As I've been trying to adult alone.
Was that
thinking that I was succeeding?
Do you think like that was almost like a humbling thing to hear Lisa be like, you really don't even have to adult alone?
Well, I don't, potentially humbling, but I think it also just brings balance to my mind.
Yeah.
Because I think there is a level of independence that is necessary, right? If falling into the other side too much, there's this dichotomy between like, are we taking complete instruction from people versus are we like consulting with those around us, right? And I think in leaning away from the taking instruction part, I was trying to go completely alone versus finding the gray area, which would be the consultation place. Like, is there a place where I can hear you out and still make my own decision versus like wanting to separate myself and do it all on my own?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, yeah, it does.
Yeah. And this is something too for me that I've had to learn, that for me, right, I've been learning a lot in my relationship with my parents as well, in that I recognize for them, I am growing, I'm developing, but that doesn't mean that they want to stop being my parents.
Right.
And I feel a sense of desire to meet them where they're at in that, and not meaning that you are going to take full control of my life, but I still recognize that there are little pockets and little places that I want to invite them into doing life with me. And so that's, for me, it looks like consultation. You know, I may not necessarily listen to every word of advice that you're giving me. And surely enough, Angela will remind me, Lisa, I told you. She's not scared to tell me. And I'm like, okay, Mom. But, you know, I recognize, though, that for myself, in order trying to hold this balance, and I'm still trying to figure out what this looks like for me, but I'm trying to keep in mind that my parents still desire to parent me, but I'm in a different phase of life. I've reached certain milestones that don't require me to behave in the way that I once did. But that doesn't mean that I have to relinquish you and remove you completely out of my life. And so, you know, that's been a growing pain for me, honestly, in trying to figure out adulting and also trying to maintain a sense of relationship and recognize what my parents' needs are, especially with my mom, who is, you know, she loves to serve and loves to care. So, yeah.
It's the fact that we left growing pains to come dismantle expectations and still back to growing
right back
pains.
around.
Listen.
It never ends. It's a lifelong experience. Lifelong.
I'm a lifelong learner.
Yes.
I surely am.
I think I'm at the same point as you, Lisa. Well, maybe not at the same point. I think I'm approaching that place of trying to figure out more of consulting and less instruction. But I think recently, because I would like, same as you, Danielle, within the last 2 months, life has been lifing for me more than I would like. And in the moments when I have been failing in that consultation with them, they have been able to give me instruction that has been helpful. So I think I am approaching that instruction consultation idea, but it's a work in progress still. I am not 100% independent. I am definitely still seeking out advice and guidance, because I'm like, if this what life was, I had no clue.
I think though, that's exactly it. Is I had no clue.
Yeah.
And I think even in our pursuit of wanting to adult alone, it's trying to master a thing that we don't know how to master, and don't realize that everyone around us also doesn't know how to master it.
Yeah.
Right. So our parents, who we think are the like supreme adults, probably are looking to other people and leaning on other people in this adulting journey as well. And so in the way that Beth highlighted, as we mentioned in the beginning, there is some level of like having a healthy I don't know, and recognizing that this is out of my wheelhouse, right? Like, I've never done this before. I don't know. Let me lean on somebody else.
Yeah.
I think that's the part I don't like, the fact that I still have to lean.
And see, I think that this is why it's mentioned for me that this is how I had to be honest with myself and recognize that this was a place of pride for me. And recognize, because God, the reason why I even started paying attention to this is because I noticed it first in my relationship with God. And I recognize how much, like, in this whole adulting phase, as I am going through like all these different transitions and growing pains, I was trying to maintain or trying to search for some aspect of control. And I kept being like knocked down. Like, God, honestly, you asked the question earlier about humbling. I feel like I'm in a humbling process right now in my adulting experience. And to your point earlier that you were making mention with like parents and you know, wanting to desire that element of control, I feel like that's an expectation that also exists within like relationships with parents or superiors in some kind of fashion, that we can't we can't maintain a sense of control and a sense of need at the same time. Those two things can be held together. We can need somebody, but also desire to experience mastery in the way that Danielle described it. It's just that I think adulting ultimately, it encapsulates those two things in a powerful way. That if we learn to do well, you could really experience like more of like the fullness of adulting in a way that's more beneficial for our lives. So hopefully it all makes sense.
You said at the center, being able to hold need and control at the same time.
And desire for like control or mastery.
Our desire for
control and
Not
mastery,
the
or our
parents.
independence maybe is also another way of putting it. Learning to hold those two things together in tandem.
And so essentially, I think, I'm trying to put all the pieces together that we've been talking about. So in summary, holding this level of need and control in tandem is where we sit in the place of consultation. Whereas if we swing to either side of the pendulum, we get instruction or isolation.
I think so. That's a good way of putting it. I think so.
This is
She
good.
just gave us a formula for consultation.
This is good. No, but I think like this is an adulting, but I think the same things apply across the board. Even when we're talking about like the business world, right?
Yes.
And someone, I don't know, in the law field needing someone in the psychology field for something and knowing that they've hit the end of their knowing in this area, being able to consult with another, and it's that place of being able to sit in the midst of or in between complete instruction and isolation. Right? I'm not handing my job to you. I, as a lawyer, am not handing the job to the psychologist saying, here, do the job.
Right.
But also I'm not pulling away and doing it on my own because I know that I don't have the resources. I'm consulting with you and coming together to bridge this gap to make a more healthy relationship and a more healthy end.
Yeah. And so if we think too, the impact that this has on like identity formation and our values, our thoughts, it really yields a lot of fruit when we going through like this whole adulting experience. And I think learning to hold all of those things together in tandem well, they help to form our identity, our values, and our thoughts in a more like authentic but also more helpful way for like longevity in our lives. Because I think the issue with isolation is that it doesn't promote longevity. It only keeps you comfortable for a season. But learning to hold these two things in tandem, I think it helps you to propel forward for a longer period of time. Because you have that support system. You're using your resources more like efficiently. Hopefully that all makes sense. So for me, what that looks like is like learning and unlearning some habits. Learning how to ask for help, learning how to, when I need to take a minute and be like, wait, Gay Lisa, you have this in you though. You don't need to ask nobody for no help. So learning like when I needed to reach out and when I needed to glean within myself, those kinds of things. So that helped to, I'm in the process right now of kind of figuring like what that looks like in my own identity development.
Yes. Even in this, like I said, this car buying process, it's been a matter of realizing like, no, I don't want you to handle this for me. I want to handle it, but also like I get to call and say, hey, here's what I'm looking at. Like, is this something that you agree with? What are your thoughts? Should I reconsider? Those kinds of things. Yes. Being able to take helpful information and apply it, but still like be able to developmentally proceed with life and not be stuck in a level of like codependency.
Right? Yeah. Yes. Right. Lisa, oh my gosh. When you talked about that whole idea of do I have it within me? That is something that me and you
we did talk about
talk about maybe like last week, 2 weeks ago. I don't know. I was in a situation where I was like, I am very quick. I was quick to call somebody to help me because I just didn't trust that I had it within me to know to make the next move. And immediately Lisa was like, wait, think about this. Like, think about all the ideas that you could possibly come up with. And lo and behold, I did have it within me, but it was about trusting my own processes. And so I think that's a part of adulting too, like trusting ourselves to know that we have it within us to be adults, to be grown. We have it within us, but it's trusting ourselves and giving ourselves grace, because there may be things that I really just don't know. And we do need sometimes the help and the guidance, and trusting that we can still reach out and get that. But trust yourself.
Creating more awareness even with yourself, like opportunities like that. And I'm anticipating for you even open up some awareness for yourself to know like these are the ways that I can find resources within myself. These are kind of questions I could ask myself, looking like within, in the midst of all of that. Because I think sliding on either side of the pendulum too much, it gets us stuck on polar sides of the pendulum, meaning like being like dependent, being independent. I don't know what the middle word is called in the dictionary, but somewhere a little nice sweet spot is like where I want to land myself as much as possible. Yeah. But yeah,
you know, an interesting thing too, that opportunity also gave me the opportunity to form my own opinion and come up with my own idea.
Yes.
And even within that was some level of independence, or some level of me being able to be like, oh, I can think through this for myself.
Yes. And so, that was my goal for asking you those questions.
So, okay, last time y'all heard that I was conditioning her. This season, she is conditioning me.
We're learning from each other.
We'll let you know how this continues to go. But yeah, I think just being able to have those opportunities to figure out things for yourself also just gives you some confidence to adult, you know? Mm-hmm.
So overall, it looks like we are learning some things and unlearning some things. Mm-hmm. We are learning how to consult when we don't know. We're learning to be okay with not knowing. And we're unlearning this, maybe this inward tendency that we have, maybe a little bit of pride in the need to be completely independent to the point of isolation. We're learning that it's okay to lean on other people, because the truth of the matter is probably everyone is leaning on each other. So yeah, adulting definitely stretches us to a different capacity. But I think it's important that we continue to discuss these things in normalizing the fact that while we all think that we are missing the mark to some degree, maybe we are right where we need to be in the process of learning the different components of what it means to be an adult. So thank you again for joining us. We are off to a great start for season 2. Y'all, I promise you want to stay tuned, because it only goes up from here. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.